If you stand on Buckle Street at dusk, you can still hear them. Dozens of bright, silvery notes skipping across the slope, weaving through laundry lines, rattling old shutters, and startling sparrows from the hedges. People who move to our town later assume the sound comes from an ice cream cart or the church's carry-on. Those of us who grew up here know better. We know it is pride itself, ours, our neighbors, the unsteady kind balanced on too-thin tires, ringing out of Mr. Vester's bicycle. I first pushed open the door of Vester's Repair and Curious the summer I was 9. It was a hard summer for everyone. The paper mill had laid off another 50 men, my mother was working doubles at the diner, and the asphalt on Buckle Street was so cracked that you could lose a marble between the slabs. And yet, inside the shop, color and music bloomed. Rims and spokes hung from the ceiling like wind chimes. A flood of early evening light stretched through dusty windows and turned the grease on the floor to gold. In the middle of it all stood Mr. Vester himself, long-fingered, oil-smudged, and smiling as though nothing in the world had ever broken beyond repair. I had come for a kickstand, but he hardly looked at the bent hunk of metal I showed him. "You need a bell," he said, rummaging through a drawer of tarnished brass and bright new chrome. "Not any bell, mind, but a true tone, only rings when the writer means it." He selected a small, copper-colored dome, its clapper hidden. When he set it in my palm, it felt warm, like a pebble sunning itself by the river. "You expect me to believe that?" I asked, half insulted, half intrigued. He winked. "Don't believe me, ride it." The bell cost $7, money I'd saved raking Mrs. Portillo's yard. That very evening, I bolted it to my handlebars, leaned my father's old 10-speed against the porch rail, and mounted with my stomach twisting. I had been trying to master the 10-speed for weeks, but its frame was too tall, the saddle too hard, and my fear too loud. My kid sister would call out encouraging words until I wobbled, then flinch as they toppled sideways into the grass. On that first ride with the True Tone, nothing changed. I pedaled 3 yards, the front wheel trembled, the world lurched, my foot scraped pavement, no bell. My palm stung, my knee bloodied, and the copper dome remained perfectly silent, staring at me like an indifferent eye. Anger turned hotter than the bruise on my shin. I hurled the bike down, stomped inside, and told my sister the bell was broken. She only said, "Maybe you are." Next morning dawned clear, humming with cicadas. I limped back to Buckle Street to demand my refund. The shop door stuck in its frame, and while I wrestled with it, the laughter of half a dozen children floated out. Inside, kids balanced on stands, front wheels lifted off the ground while their legs pumped in midair. Every so often, a crystal note, pure as water poured into glass, rang out over the clatter of tools. Maddie Breen, who'd broken her arm last year and hadn't dared mount a bike since, was pedaling without any trainer wheels. The tiny bell on her handlebar rang a quick triplet. She beamed wider than I'd ever seen her smile and nearly toppled off in surprise. "It really does work," she whispered to me after dismounting. I looked down, feel, I don't know, pleased inside. "And it sings," she pressed a hand over her chest, "like it hears me here." I watched 3 more kids test ride their bells. Felipe, whose lungs were weak, who never ran at recess, Lorna, who tripped over her own shoelaces, and Ty, who showed off too often to make friends. Each time, genuine delight broke across a face, sometimes shy, sometimes triumphant. The True Tone chimed. When Ty tried to force a ding with a flashy wheelie, the bell stayed mute. He landed, flushed, and tried again. Nothing. Mr. Vester caught me staring. "Come straight from the writer," he said, tapping his sternum. "Not ego, mind you. Pride, the sturdy kind, built by work." "But why doesn't it ring for me?" I blurted. "Because you haven't decided you're allowed to be proud." He handed me my same copper bell, tightened its screws with a twist of his wrist, and ushered me out. "Make a deal with yourself. You pedal as far as the old sycamore at Howard's Corner. If you crash, you pick up. If you reach it, you celebrate, even if nobody sees. Let that pride be small, but let it be yours." All week I practiced. Day 1, 20 feet, bell silent. Day 2, 35 feet. Day 3, halfway to the sycamore before catching a pedal on a root. Each time I fell, I heard Maddie's water-clear note in my memory. I taped the word celebrate to my handlebars. Still no ring. Day 6, a breeze nudged behind me like a steady hand. The road tipped slightly downhill, a gift of momentum. I rose on the pedals, legs pumped, neck craning between leaf-dappled sunlight. Stones zipped under my tires. I felt the bike steady, felt balance spread from my knees, up through my ribs, into something bigger than bones. I passed the sycamore before realizing I'd left fear behind, a forgotten jacket on the porch. The bell pealed a single, round, impossible note, bright as if a choir had thrown open its mouths inside my handlebars. My heart bounded against it, keeping time. I braked, skidded, laughed so hard my legs buckled. Pride flooded every gap, fear once occupied, and for the first time, pride felt rightful, like oxygen. When I returned to the shop the next day, crusted with gravel dust, Mr. Vester only nodded, as though everything were proceeding precisely on schedule. "Now you can help others," he said, handing me a rag and pointing to a toddler's tricycle missing a pedal cap. Pride grows sweeter when it echoes. That summer and the two that followed, I spent countless afternoons in the back bay of Vester's Repair and Curios. I replaced inner tubes, aligned wheels, and polished handlebars that were often taller than their owners. Every finished job earned a nickel. Every true tone installed earned a story. Some days, when the heat was thick and business slow, Mr. Vester showed me sketches of the bell's mechanism. Half the pages looked like music sheets, staffs and notes scrawled into cross-sections of brass domes. "This measures emotion," he explained, pointing to a coil thinner than a hair. "Or something so close to emotion we don't know the word. A resonance chamber catches it, amplifies the frequencies pride makes, turns them audible." "Why doesn't it clang when someone's nasty proud?" I asked. He tapped the base of the drawing where a ring of irregular shapes circled the bell's rim. "These are the dampers. They snuff frequencies born from spite or vanity. Only pure joy rides through." Rumors flitted around town that the bells were magic or witchcraft or illegal. Parents who wanted their kids toughened up said real achievement shouldn't need jolly jingling to applaud it, but they could not argue with results. Every child who trained with a true tone learned to ride sooner, fell less, and glowed longer afterward. The school nurse recorded a 40% drop in scraped knees. The mayor, whose granddaughter's bell rang a perfect C-sharp while she completed her first charity bike-a-thon, invited Mr. Vester to display his invention at the county fair. Not all news was good. 2 sporting goods chains opened stores a few miles out, undercutting repair prices. They sold gaudy handlebar horns shaped like cartoon characters, loud enough to wake the dead. Business at Vester's dwindled, except for the bells, which the chains tried to copy but never managed to make sing. Corporate lawyers claimed patents. The lawyers left shaking their heads, papers inexplicably blank. Then came the autumn I turned 12 when the town council passed the Quiet Streets Ordinance. Officially, it targeted the blaring horns of passing freight trucks, but certain clauses banned unregulated acoustic devices capable of emitting spontaneous noise. The wording was suspiciously precise. The vote was scheduled 2 days after the annual Fall Riders Parade, an event where half the elementary school traditionally wheeled down Main Street with their bells tinkling like migrating birds. We suspected the new sporting goods chains had lobbied for the ordinance. Without the True Tones' gentle competition, their plastic horns would own the market. Adults muttered, but kids seethed. The bells were ours, not toys or gadgets, but secret partners that had cheered every wound, every wobble conquered. To think of them, silence was to imagine taking all color out of autumn leaves. The night before the council meeting, a knot of us gathered behind Vester's shop. We ranged in age from 6 to 13. Our bikes circled us like restless horses. Arguments tumbled, peaceful protest, petitions, boycott. Tie. Now, one of my closest friends wanted to chain ourselves to the council doors. Maddie suggested writing letters. Felipe proposed a silent vow not to buy anything from the big stores. But silence, we agreed, was exactly what they wanted. Mr. Vester emerged from the shadows, wiping hands on a paint-speckled towel. "Show them," he said simply. "Don't scream at what they're taking. Sing about what they'd lose." Next afternoon, the council hall buzzed with adults in starched shirts and children in scuffed sneakers. Reporters set up tripods. The chain's representatives sat smug in the front row. The first agenda item was pothole funding. The second was the ordinance. When debate opened, we rolled in. 43 kids, handlebars gleaming, bells muted for now. Councilman Rhodes began listing decibel statistics. A lawyer cited liability issues. What if a bell malfunctioned and scared a horse? What if children caused measurable psychological distress by chiming en masse near sensitive citizens? Each claim felt more ridiculous than the last, yet the gavel tapped closer to a vote. I glanced at Ty, he nodded. We moved. We lined the chamber's center aisle and walked our bikes forward, a wheel's turn at a time. No one spoke. Even reporters fell quiet, cameras panning. When we reached the open space before the dais, I took the breath I'd been saving since sunrise. I remembered the first time my bell chimed. I remembered the pride of scraped knees healed, new bruises dared, distance traveled. I remembered teaching my sister to balance, running behind her on the school lot as she squealed into independence. I summoned every warm spark those images produced until they flared inside my ribs. My bell rang. It was not loud, it was clear, a thread of silver through thick cloth. Around me, one by one, 42 other bells joined. Soft soprano peals, mellow tenor trills, small alto pings. The harmonies wound around the rafters like strings of lights. Councilman Rhodes's mouth hung open. The corporate lawyer fumbled his notes. No horse reared. No adult clutched ears. Instead, something astonishing happened. People smiled. They did not plan to. Smiles sprang up anyway, the way sunflowers twist toward a crack of morning. When the last note faded, Mr. Vester, who had stood at the back unnoticed, cleared his throat. Members of the council, he said, you've just heard evidence of unmanufactured, community-generated joy. It costs the town not a penny, saves us medical bills, productive hours, and heartache. If you vote to silence it, you're poorer than these children and their bells. Silence held, then applause broke, not thunderous, but honest, the kind dictated by souls rather than etiquette. The ordinance failed. The sporting goods reps gathered their briefcases and slipped out, bells tolling them farewell like distant church clocks. What passed between that day and my 22nd birthday sped like downhill gravel. Middle school problems, first jobs, and a scholarship that carried me 3 states away. I visited Summers, always helping Mr. Vester tune the bells, now sold worldwide to parents who'd read about them in magazines. The shop remained small, refusing to franchise, its secrets intact. A thing loses flavor if stretched too thin, Vester told me. Let pride stay concentrated. The year I graduated college, he wrote to say his hands shook too badly to wield fine tools. Would I come home to mind the shop a while? I agreed gladly, but a week before my train, he died in his sleep. I arrived to find Buckle Street lined with bicycles. Hundreds, adult size now, bells hushed in mourning. We rolled them behind the hearse in silent procession. At the graveside, my own bell trembled once, a soft half note, as though saluting. I inherited a battered ledger, a drawer of sketches, and the keys to Vester's Repair and Curios. I also inherited the decision of what to do with them. My engineering degree earned handsome offers, but whenever I weighed them against the shop's dusty light and lingering melodies, the scales tipped homeward. I reopened the doors that spring. Time coaxed changes. Now I 3D print some replacement parts, email orders drown my desk. But the core practice holds, each bell assembled by human hands, tuned against the maker's own heartbeat, dampers adjusted until only healthy pride hums through. I no longer question how it works any more than I question rain. Some truths don't require permission, and pride never ages. When I learned that on a breezy September afternoon when my daughter, Josie, wobbling on a raspberry red coaster bike, tried coasting down the gentle hill behind the library, 3 earlier attempts had ended in frustration. She stomped tiny sneakers, declared the bike mean, and demanded I carry her home. I saw my 9-year-old self stamped across her face, that same impatience, that same narrowed glance at the silent bell. We struck a bargain like the one Vester had set for me decades before. She would pedal to Mrs. Portillo's lamppost. She would celebrate if she succeeded, stand up if she fell. She squinted, pushed off, and let gravity nudge. 10 feet, 15, a wobble, a correction, smoother than any she'd managed in practice. As she neared the lamppost, I saw her shoulders rise, chin lift, a shy gleam warming her cheek. The bell on her bar's bright copper, faintly worn, rang. The note was exactly the pitch mine had given on the day I outran my fear. I had installed the same bell on Josie's bike the night before, polishing it until my fingertips glowed green. When its voice broke onto the sidewalk, I felt as though Vester himself stood beside us, oil-smudged hands in pockets, nodding. Josie skidded to a triumphant stop. "Mom, it worked! It really worked!" she shrieked, cheeks split into an impossible smile. "Of course," I answered, scooping her into my arms, but my voice cracked with love and memory. Over her shoulder, I glimpsed Buckle Street, the crooked gutters, the sagging awnings, the sunset varnishing every spoke and rim. Somewhere beyond the rooftops, other bells answered my daughter's chime, passing the music from yard to yard like a relay of dawn. A sudden gust rattled branches overhead. Leaves spun down, dancing on unseen currents. The bells picked up their rhythm, bright and impossibly tender. They did not ring for victory over racers or boast of miles conquered. They rang for a wobble mastered, a fear outgrown, a seed of worth proven. They rang for the quiet miracle of each child believing, if only for a moment, that they were exactly enough. I closed my eyes and let the sound pour through all the rooms inside me that had ever felt doubtful or small. It filled them the way light fills glass until I could not tell where the music ended and my heartbeat began. That night, as Josie slept with grease still under her fingernails, I sat alone in the back bay, surrounded by half-finished bells. The silence was thick, waiting. I tightened a spring, adjusted a damper, held the dome to my ear. Nothing yet. Pride, like children, cannot be rushed. But tomorrow, or the next day, some kid would push past fear, feel rightful delight bloom, and the bell would ring. It would sing down Buckle Street and across the rooftops, teaching the town again what pride sounds like when it is honest and new. And the song, caught up by other domes and other hearts, would never truly stop. If you stand on Buckle Street at dusk, you might hear it, not just notes, but footsteps of pride, learning to walk on two wheels, forever ringing itself forward.